Hi everyone. Today we are going to do lab number 13. In lab number 13, that will involve reinstalling the valve assembly. We have the valve, we have the spring, and then we have the keeper right here. So we're going to do that for both the exhaust and intake valves. After that, we are also going to install the camshaft right here. Here's the camshaft gear. So when we get that done, which I also mentioned, we'll have the lifters installed. So between the camshaft lobes, those little egg-shaped lobes, and the valve stem is the lifter. And that's this guy right here. This part right here goes up against the lobes on the camshaft, and this part right here goes against the stem of the valve, pushing it up. Then we'll put the camshaft in as well. And then we're gonna do the side cover gasket. So the side cover gasket right here, and closing up the engine right there, and should all be good to go. We'll take a look at the gasket at that time and see if we need to replace it. And one note with gaskets, typically, anytime you tear an engine apart, replace all the gaskets as you go through it. This particular one being in a classroom setting right here, and the fact that we don't run it for very long at all, I'm going to reuse gaskets whenever we can, just to kind of save money with the budget and all that. So, but I'd want to mention, typically you take it apart, replace that gasket no matter what. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to install the valves, and I'm going to kind of do a pause here in the video, and I'm going to resituate the camera, because I'm going to try and get it into an angle where you can see it a lot better installing the valves right there. Okay, so let's get started installing those valves. Okay, so here we go. We have our valve and our spring and our keeper. I want you to take a look at that keeper right there. Can you see that, how it's kind of oblong shaped like that? So when it goes on, I should also mention this little dish shape goes towards the spring. But when it goes on, we're gonna initially put it on this larger part on the side and then slide it over to that, and that will keep it in place and locked in. So that's how that's going to go. So to do this, first thing I do is I'm going to set this in here, and can't forget, I want to get a little motor honey on the valve stem. Make sure that slides nice and easily in there. And this is the exhaust valve. There we go, and I'm not pushing it in all the way. Next thing I want to do, get this, I'm going to make it a little larger here. I want to compress this spring. Now sometimes this can be a pistol, so we'll see if I have to do this more than once. See how that popped out? That will happen. Now there's a slight adjustment I could probably do on this. This end right here, I could probably turn this in to be slightly smaller. But if it pops out, just got to keep trying it. If it gives me too many issues, just save yourself the boredom of watching this video. I may pause it and then go from there. Oh, it feels like it's sliding out again. Yep. I'm going to try flipping this around, and that might help. I'll flip this around like this. Get that on the spring. Turning that a little bit in there to try and get a better spot. Popping out. You have to keep your patience as you do this. Uh-oh, I dropped the keeper. Ugh, stretch. I'm grabbing this with the needle nose pliers, and you'll see that in just a second. If you're having problems, keep trying. You will get it. Oh, I almost had it there. That was so close. Oops, sorry about that. Bumping the camera. It's kind of tricky here because as you, in order to get this keeper in there, nope, it's not on there. But this valve can have trouble with it coming out and in. And you have to have it out enough to get the keeper in there, but then you have to push this back in. So try it again here. It doesn't look like it's really compressing that spring too nicely. Try this for a little bit longer, and then I will, if I have problems, I will pause the video. Then I will continue again after I get this, but try it a couple more times here. I'm going to pause the video here and I will continue in just a second. Okay, so I think I just got this last valve. Yes, I did. So those are really, really tricky. You just got to be patient, walk away if you get mad. Got that keeper on the stem and the spring is compressed. You want to make sure that that is on there, that it's not just sitting off of the valve. Because as you turn this, you want to make sure that the camshaft and lifters are going to push those up. Okay, so that completes the valves. First steps 5 and 6. Number 7 is to follow the directions for installing the valve. We just did that, number 7. And number 8, number 9, put some motor honey in both lifters and put them in the correct valve. So, you can see this, there's little holes on the inside in here, right down in here. Those are where the lifters are gonna go. Put motor honey on these and my fingers. I can't avoid that. I apologize, you're not be able to see this, but I am just putting these lifters into those holes that I showed you. Put it on the inside. You can see those right there. Yep, there we go. There's the two lifters right in here. There's the lifter and there's a lifter back behind it. So that will complete step number 9. Now we have to install the camshaft. So back this up. Here's the camshaft. And here are the lobes. Little egg-shaped lobes. Let me try to get those so you can see those a little better. But you want to put motor honey on those lobes because you're going to have moving metal parts. Anytime you have moving metal parts, you want to do that. Put them on the ends. Get it lubed up nice. So, putting it on the end here. All this motor honey, all of the lobes, all over the end right there. Now, this is going to be hard to see for you. There is a little timing mark right there. I wonder if I can turn this by hand or if my hands are too slippery. I am going to have to get my flywheel. I'll show you why. I have to turn my crankshaft. I'm installing the key so I can turn my crankshaft. Because there's timing marks on this. Must be hard for you to see. On this gear right here, there is a little mark, a little dot indentation. That has to match up with, you can see this, that dot right there. So as I install the camshaft, I want to rotate it to make sure that those two dots will match up. And if they don't, it will not run right. So I'm going to try and show you. Ooh. Can you see those? Where the two gears meet? Those two little dots? Those are the timing marks. Those absolutely have to line up. Okay? So that completes step number 12. Now we're going to put on the side engine cover right here. I can remove this flywheel. Oops. And key. Put this on its, well, the end the best I can. I'll remove these. And I have motor honey in all of those parts there. I'm going to remove these bolts. I'm going to put them back in the exact spots they go. So I'm going to lay them down on the table according to how they're laid out. I think I might grab a new gasket here. Dropped one of the bolts. Needle nose pliers comes in handy. So this is torn a little bit right here. You can see that. So I'm going to get a new gasket. So I'm going to install this gasket. I have my side engine cover right here, all nice and clean. This does have these little posts here. It helps align the gasket and everything. Let me back this up a second. I gotta put some motor housing back here. This is a moving part. Right around in there. Put some in here. Doesn't hurt. Those are all moving parts. Put some on the bearing in here. Now I'm ready to reinstall. Let's have my gasket there. That's sliding nicely. There, fits in. Now I can get these bolts and hand tighten them back into place. Grab the manual quickly. And I am going to look for see if I can see it here. So when you tighten down your side engine cover, you want to make sure that you alternate back and forth opposite corners. You don't want to go right around. It will not tighten down evenly, and you want it to go down evenly all the way around. You can always look, I'm just snugging these up for now. You can look for a sequence in the manual. Snug that. Actually, let me get some. See, I'm bouncing around. Oops. Going opposite corners around. Okay, snug, snug, snug. These are not torqued down, they're just snug. Now the torque reading on this is 70 inch-pounds. Again, inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. So I'm going to do this about half of that to about 35. And then I'm going to finish it up afterwards. So it's important that you torque it little by little. Do not crank it all the way down on one. The last one, and I can do it. Now I got them all. Now I can go back and do it to the final 70 inch-pounds. Right about there. hitting the crankshaft. There we go. Snugging these all up. Once you have this done, this completes lab number 13. So now, lab number 13 is complete. We have our crankshaft installed. We have our camshaft installed. We have our valves installed. So as we turn this, it'll open and close the valves right here. And we have our side engine cover installed right here. We also have motor honey on all moving metal parts. That's so super important. I cannot stress that enough. You want all those parts lubricated before you even put oil back into here, okay? So that's gonna finish lab 13. Lab 14, we're gonna check for valve lash. Valve lash is if you have your lifter coming up from the bottom and you have your valve stem coming down, as we talked about, that lifter pushes up against that valve stem. But there should be a little bit of a gap in there when it's not pushing it or anything. So what that gap between the lifter and the stem, that's called the valve lash. And there's there's an acceptable range for that. So that's what we're gonna be measuring with the feeler gauge in lab 14, okay? So for this lab right here, I want you, as previous labs, I want you to write down a summary of what we did in this lab and the different tools, mention the tools that we use in this. And yeah, then we'll continue on lab 14. Make sure you upload that to the Google Classroom page. All right, thanks.